welcome to Catch Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the Florida Keys. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the islands. Thank you so much for tuning in, and now it's time to kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch Outdoors is number 163. Hello all, hope you're about to have or you have had a great day and hope you're about to have a really great week. Catch Outdoors brought to you by Spotify. Title for this week's episode is all about fishing. Long pause. Oh my gosh. Well, as you know, if you don't know by now, the weather down here has been fairly crazy. There are a few guides that have been getting out in the back. I spoke to a couple of guys last night down in Islamorada. Janelle and I went there for the sunset at the Lorelei, and I walked over to where the guides are. And as a matter of fact, Sean was there, one of the guys that I've taken out before, and we just had a little chat. And he said, you know, they can escape corners and they can get into holes, but he can't always guarantee that the fish are going to be there. So it's kind of a dilemma, but he had a smile on his face, and they were cleaning some fish at the table yesterday evening, so apparently he did okay. But he's got a 24-foot center console. That's a big difference between my 18. And he admitted that. But anyway, it's blowing. It's been blowing. I decided I'm going to make an all about fishing podcast today. I'm going to cover it. I'm just going to talk fishing. That's what they say. If you can't go, talk about it, right? Or if they can't go, sort your tackle. Or if you can't go, tie knots or whatever. Tie flies, right? So. Yeah, the weather down here, it's actually beautiful. Mostly sunny, almost no rain. And if we do get a rain, it's one of those, I call them blast showers, where they just come ripping in this case from the east, and just blow right through us. Everything gets wet for about, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then within 30 minutes later, it's dry again. It's wild. It's crazy. A lot of salt coming off the Atlantic. I have had to hose my truck down about every 2 days to get the salt off, which is not good for vehicles. The salt's not. You can see it on the windows. It's really crazy. And this has been going on for 3 weeks now. I'm guessing. Week 4 coming up. And there's more to come. I'm recording this on Monday morning. There's a really good possibility that we're going to have a tropical weather down this way as early as Wednesday. So hang on to your hats and wigs. It's still going to blow a little bit longer. Now, I have to admit that it's a blessing that it's blowing, because it's pushing that invest, whatever the heck they're calling this one. They haven't named it yet because it hasn't become a storm. I think it's Raphael is what it's going to be, but they issued hurricane watch, or it might have been warnings for the Grand Caymans, and then Cuba, the westernmost tip of Cuba, Havana, in that area is under the gun. It's going to go right across the Cuban mountains, which should knock some of the steam out of it, and then it'll enter the Gulf. Right now, the track is pointing it west of us, and kind of a northwest track, and then it's going to curve over west of. If it's going to make landfall, it's going to be west of probably New Orleans, and north of Louisiana. Minimal hurricane, Cat 1, and then actually by the time it reaches landfall, the water looks like it's going to be cool enough to knock the stuffings out of it, so it should be tropical storm winds. Still a mess, still a lot of rain. It's a pretty broad low. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some rain and windy crap here. So, what else is new? Number 4, yeah, what a year, and it's November. Yeah, it's supposed to be winding down. I like to remind people that hurricane season lasts until November 30th, so we're still in the sights. I decided to do a total podcast, 30 minutes or so, on just fishing, talking about it. Like I just said, it's good to talk if you can't do it. Hang on for a few announcements here, and then we'll do some imaginary fishing. Yeah, really, it's been terribly imaginary for me. I was thinking about I told somebody I'm going to go to the bridge. And they go, "You going to jump off?" And I said, "No, I'm going to fish." But I've toyed with the idea of jumping off. By the way, it's still quiet time down here in the Keys. So if you're bored, you're looking for an island getaway, come on down. I mean, the storm's going to inch out. Just watch the storm. I'm not suggesting you book something Wednesday or Thursday or Friday this week, but keep an eye on it. The following week, hopefully things will get better. And it's a good time to get here because traffic now is minimal. It's easy to get a seat at a restaurant, real easy to get a seat at a restaurant. And hopefully the weather will improve sooner than later. I'm going to give you a red tide report because it has peaked. I've been ignoring it and just skipping it until recently, and all of a sudden it reared its ugly head again. Over the past week, the red tide organism, Corinna brevis, was detected in 76 samples. Wow. Collected from Florida's Gulf Coast. Bloom concentrations of greater than 100,000 cells per liter were present in 18 of those samples. 2 offshore of Pinellas County, 3 from the offshore of Sarasota County, 4 offshore of Charlotte County, 8 offshore of Lee County, and 1 offshore of Collier County. So there you go. The levels were observed. Basically, the mileage that these things picked up was 20 to 25 miles offshore. So I'm trying to find Lee here. Yeah, Lee was 25 to 35 miles offshore. So what's happening is it's streaming in the Gulf Stream, apparently, and it's not up against the shores yet. That's the good news. So that's the positive side, is it's way out there. Let's see, what else is in this report? Anything interesting? In Northwest Florida, Corinna brevis had background concentrations in 1 sample collected from Franklin along the Florida East Coast and Florida Keys. Corinna brevis was not observed. So there are no fish kills at this time. At least none that anybody spotted. Let's just put it that way. Halloween this past Thursday. What a blast. Tons of kids and adults. I've mentioned this before. We are in Halloween Mecca here. It's really bizarre. People come from all over to come and walk our neighborhoods. Flashlights, golf carts, adults, kids. Adults get served. We serve Jello shots. Yeah, they loved us. But you can go get a margarita. You can get most anything walking the street, and it's controlled chaos. It's really something. And I would say, oh my gosh, we probably saw 200 kids at least. Costumes were outstanding this year. So there you go. Look forward to it next year. Christmas Eve is 7 weeks away from today's podcast. So if you're listening tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 weeks. I don't decorate till after Thanksgiving. I ain't going there. Stuff's popping up everywhere, though. Not in the neighborhoods, but if you go to any of the stores up in Homestead, you do Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, the places that I go visit. There's already stuff up. And if you've watched television, I try not to until the political ads are over. But if you watch television, I was watching the football game and I saw a Christmas ad, like a Jingle Bells logo-y sound in the background. I looked up and I went, oh no, seriously? So anyway, be ready. Let's see. Okay, fishing. So I went to a new tackle store in Key Largo. In a word, fantastic. It's called JD Outdoors Adventures. I think he said they opened up about a month ago. He might have said 2 months. I can't remember. I think they were putting it all together up to 4 months ago, but finally got things rolling. What a fantastic shop. It's located at mile marker 99.1 on the Bayside. It blew my mind. I got to be honest with you. They had everything. I mean, everything. Several walls full of tackle, artificials, jigs, hooks, lines, leaders, everything you could possibly need to fish the Florida Keys, both offshore and inshore and deep offshore. Specifically for the Keys. I was really eyeballing just, my first trip in there. We've been driving by it, and Janelle had said something about it, and I thought, I got to go check this place out. And then I was watching a YouTube video the other day of a local Key Largo guy who goes fishing, and he mentioned that he'd been in there and got some lures, and so I thought, well, I'll check it out. Beautiful. Fantastic. I've never seen such a wall of artificial lures before, other than maybe Bass Pro. And even I don't think Bass Pro had all the ones this guy had. And that's an important note, too. The tackle shops, the small mom and pops, I call them, they carry what we use. Bass Pro doesn't necessarily do that. Now, I will say this. Offshore angler, which is what it's called down here, is strictly saltwater and saltwater fly. So they really don't carry the freshwater stuff. And so they do orient themselves towards salt, but you'll see stuff in there that we'd never use. I just wouldn't happen. Like, what in the hell is that? They got, good selection of rods and reels and stuff like that. But so did this shop. The JD Outdoor Adventures had rows and rows of rods and also a great selection of fishing reels. They had maintenance stuff in the back for boating and for trailer parts and maintenance for trailers, which that was pretty impressive. Cleaning supplies for boats, that kind of stuff. Had a diving area, had a snorkeling area, had a special ladies area, all female type stuff. It was really cool. I liked it. It was decorated in pink. I mean, you came around the corner and went, oh, okay, that's definitely the ladies shop. I was blown away by that, but glad to see it. I'll still share my time with Pete's Tackle and the Yellow Bait House here in Key Largo. Obviously, those are the two that I visit the most, and they're close to home, closer than the JD is. JD's well down the road. It's where Key Largo, where the main road splits into two different islands. So you have a southbound and northbound on the opposite side of land in the middle, right there, right where that starts. But anyway, I'll still visit the Yellow Bait and, of course, the Pete's Tackle. Good stuff in there. Same idea. I mean, those two shops also cater to the local fishermen. So, let's see. Worldwide Sportsman. I said that wrong. That's what they call it down there. The gear that they sell is Offshore Angler. That's their branding that they do for clothing and stuff. While I'm talking about Bass Pro, Mako Boats introduced two new backcountry skiffs this week at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. Popped up in my feed. I guess it was Thursday when the show started. I'm just guessing Thursday. Yeah, sounds right. Thursday, Friday. I started to really see it on Friday, and that's because I was on the Mako Pro staff. So obviously I still get emails and post. The models are both 18-foot skiffs. One's called the Pro Skiff Backwater Edition. The other one is the Pro Skiff Silver Star Edition. Great looking. A couple of things struck me as a bit strange, though, and of course I have to talk about strange. I already own an 18 Mako. I have an 18 LTS, which is a backcountry skiff with virtually the same stats as a new one as far as length, width, stuff like that, weight. What they did is they took the 18 LTS and dressed it up, put a bigger deck on it. Both stern and forward deck is larger for fishing, so a couple people can be on the deck at the same time in the same area and fish, which is kind of cool. They got rid of the cooler and incorporated the seat into the back deck, and it has two live wells. There's one behind the seat, a large one. There's a small one up under the passenger forward seat, the seat that's right in front of the console. But lots and lots of storage space on these things. The only thing that took me aback was I could not find in specs or even in pictures, there's no cooler on board. In Florida, that seems a bit odd. I suppose you could use the forward live well. I think it was a 7-gallon live well. You could put some ice and some drinks in there, some water. But kind of strange to not have a cooler on board. That was the first thing that struck me. Where the heck are you going to put the cooler? Well, you'll have to take up deck space with a cooler. Put your Yeti on there or whatever. What else? Let's see. There was, the coloration was weird. Okay, the backcountry, let me go backwards because I want to get the name right. The Backwater Edition is like a dark green hull and a camouflage dark brown, that brown camouflage deck, the whole deck. That, I don't know, man, that'd be murder and sun, I'd have to say. I mean, I'm all about white. A white deck in Florida is what you want. You don't want dark blue. You don't want dark green. You don't want camo. You don't want that on the deck. It's going to be brutally hot in the summertime. It absorbs heat. So, but you can order the Silver Star version, which is white hull, light gray deck with some cool outlines and a star. Kind of looks like the Dallas Cowboys logo. It's kind of what it looks like. But I don't know. Here's the kicker for me. I did a little research when I saw the two boats. The Mako LTS, the 18 LTS, is about $35,000 base price. That's your boat, motor, and trailer with a 115 on it. You can dress it up with a little fancier 115, and you can put a trolling motor, power pole, things like that on it. That'll drive it up to about 43,000, 44,000, somewhere in that ballpark. Once you get all the toys put on it. The new boats Price is $64,000 base price. Now that includes a 175 engine, and there's no doubt about it that a 175 is going to cost you a whole lot more than a 115. They increased the fuel size. The tank is a 37. My tank's a 28. So nine gallons extra for the 175. It will burn the fuel. I'm all about saving money on gas now, so I'm happy with the 115, and it pushes me around at 30 miles an hour. I'd have to say I didn't look at speeds. I'm not even sure there were speed tests in the specs I read. I probably would have noticed it. I'm guessing it'll do 40. At a reasonable rate, 4,000 RPM, 40, something like that. Your fuel burn just goes completely to hell when you start to really push these boats. And with the cost of wreck fuel right now, it's probably not something you want to do. Anyway, but $64,000. Now, it did include the trolling motor. It did include the power pole, single power pole, and it included a fancy stereo system, which is also something I don't do on a fishing boat, but I know people enjoy that, especially if you're going to sandbar it and stuff like that. You got to have your tunes. So it had that on board. So they've added a few extras, but that's a huge price difference. That's $20,000 difference in the two boats that, as far as I can tell, are sitting on about the same hull. So I'll take a ride. If I can find one around that somebody's got or somebody buys, and I'd love to take a ride on it to see what it feels like. What else? Let's see. I think that was all I had to mention on that one. Yeah. But it's nice that they're staying in the 18 range, I will say. I missed the 21. The 21 LTS, they had rumors that they were going to bring the 21 back. That's the boat that I guided on. And I loved that boat. That boat had a nice wide beam. It was extremely stable. That's the word I'm looking for. And so you could wander around, and the other person on the boat didn't even know you were wandering around. That was really nice. And it floated in nothing because of displacement, because it was so wide. It was just fantastic. I don't know why in the world they got rid of that boat. Design issues, manufacturing issues. I've never really heard a story about the 21, but I absolutely loved fishing on it. It seems that many of the old rod manufacturers that I'm most familiar with have been bought out by large companies or conglomerates. I was doing a little study on this, and I was talking to the guy that was working the counter at the JD tackle shop, outdoor shop, and he even mentioned it because they had a lot of rods in there, and that's what caught my attention. I started going through the rods, and I was starting to see a couple of names I had never seen before, and they were ordered in special. Now, the main shop for them, but that's not the only one. There's one in Miami. It started in Miami, and they decided to put one in the Keys. So they know their stuff. I mean, it's obvious when you're in the shop, you're like, these guys absolutely know what they're doing. So a ton of rods, and we just got to talking about them. And like one of my favorites is in their Star, which used to be handmade in Miami. It's not anymore. It's made in China. People still buy Star rods. They're still a quality rod, but they're certainly not like they were when the folks in Miami were building them by hand. However, like St. Croix rods, he had a really good selection of St. Croix, and they are still owned by the Schulter family. And I think Schulter's, it's been over 40 years now, because I got involved with St. Croix, golly, has it been that long? 30 years ago? Yeah, it has been that long. Geez, I'm getting old. I love St. Croix rods. I really do. That was the one thing I kept on my boat almost all the time. All other tackle, reels changed, nets changed, but not my St. Croix. I always enjoyed that product and still do. It's still a great rod. So that one, they had a lot of those. The other one that was kind of odd that went by the wayside was G. Loomis. That was bought out a while ago by Shimano. And Gary Loomis, he started that company in 1982 and just sold it. So G. Loomis is not the G. Loomis of old. I'll just say that. One of the interesting things about Gary Loomis and Lefty Craig, the two of them got involved with TFO, Temple Fork Outfitters, and they came up with a really decent quality rod, that is at lower price. And, I mean, competed easily with all the other stuff out there. I think it started out as a fly rod company, and then they branched into spinning. And I had several of those spinnings at one point. I think they gave me 3 or 4 of them to try after one of the ICAST shows. And I liked them. They were nice, lightweight, good manufacturer, for a whole lot less money than their competitors were doing. But TFO's back. He had quite a few of them in the shop. I think the most interesting newer rod manufacturer, and when I say newer, now they've been around a while, they're not brand new, but is Bull Bay rods. For those of you that are looking for a spinning rod, price on the Bull Bays, it's kind of high. I think $169 to $299 will get you a really decent saltwater rod. They're extremely lightweight. They've designed a spinning rod for casting distance, and that's Keezy is what that is. Down here in the Keys, you want to be able to throw it as far as you can because fish can see you a long way off. I've talked about this before. We have really clear water, especially on our flats, and they spook pretty easy. So I thought that was pretty cool. And those models are around $200. Also, I looked up Bull Bay because I didn't know a whole lot about their history. They won best category for rods, for saltwater rods in 2021 and 2022 at ICAST. So there you go. And like I said, their rods are noted for long casting ability. There are a bunch of them. I went online and just put Bull Bay and then went to their site and clicked on saltwater rods. Holy moly. You got some decision making to make there. It's an amazing amount of models, lots of models. Reels. I was going to skip this, but here's a quick rundown. If you like it, buy it. How's that? I'm nuts about lightweight, but that often causes problems with durability. In a word, Penn is probably the best spinning reel offshore reel company at this point. Now, everybody out there is going, no, I like this one better now. Yeah, I know. And there are much more expensive ones, too, that are probably better than a Penn outright. But for the money, the Penn reels are hard to beat. Well-made, heavy, and durable. That's like made of brass, you know. The thing about Penn is they don't break. I've gone through lots of them, and they're still with me. I haven't gotten rid of them. I'm going to have a giant yard sale, I think, this winter when everybody comes. We have a neighborhood yard sale here. I thought, I'm going to put a bunch of stuff out this year. Going to make me some money. For lightweight, I'm a fan of Quantum. They have a line called Smoke, the Smoke line. Great feel, great drag, but I've worn out a couple of them in under 2 years. So there's that durability problem. You can replace parts and do things like that with it. If you're mechanically inclined, you can certainly add a part that's gone bad on them. But quite frankly, I have a lot of trouble with the drag as it gets older. The drag works really great, and then all of a sudden you start noticing something not quite right with it. And it's just drag washers and plates they wear out easily. But that's a weight thing. They're trying to give you something that's very, very light. The in-between is where I have finally wound up as Daiwa. And it's kind of funny because I came full circle on Daiwa. Daiwa was one of the first reels that I used when I was guiding. And it was popular. I liked them. I fished them a lot. They were durable. They were clunky. But they didn't break. They really didn't. I mean, I had at least a dozen of them that I kept in rotation between going to standard maintenance and fishing with them. They've got a line called the Ballistic, $200, $229. They're right in that range where it's not ridiculous but not cheap. It's in that middle ground area. I like them. It's got a light frame, but heavier than most, and the drag system on it is fabulous. I love a drag system where when you adjust the drag, you have to actually turn it a bit to adjust it. I hate the ones that have a little tiny touch of the drag and it gets real tight or gets real loose without hardly any turn at all, which is going to cause you to break a fish off. And that's going to happen if you're not careful with it. I like these because you do have to tug on them a little bit on the drag itself to make changes. So there you go. Daiwa, Penn, and Quantum. Those are the three that I've used the most. Like all three of them, but I'm a Daiwa person right now, and so far so good. And I'll let you know if that changes. So, lures. Got to do this. Soft plastic versus hard plastic, or faux wooden, as I call it. The ones that look wooden and they aren't. Getting good at doing those too. I ain't kidding you. Fooled me a couple times. As most of most of these my listeners, as most of you all know, I'm a big fan of artificial lures. I believe you get more time in the water with something that's artificial versus live bait. Live bait, you lose it, you rebait. Live bait, you get a bite and lose it. You rebait. You cast it off, you rebait. Lures don't work that way. Well, unless you're around barracuda, then all bets are off. Bite it off. Oh, damn, reel in, put it on, bite. Stop. You got to get a little metal out and put a piece of wire on to stop it or move. But I'm a big fan and always have been. However, I do love to toss shrimp, cut bait, chunk bait, white bait. But I'd really rather throw arties. I come from the guide background where you had to have live bait. I started in the day when you had to have white bait. You didn't even have to have shrimp. People wanted white bait on board. And then they discovered that shrimp worked too. And you mixed it together. Or if you couldn't get white bait on a given morning, the bait pods just weren't showing up like they're supposed to, you could just go get live shrimp. And it worked. As a matter of fact, it works really well. But when I stopped guiding, I don't have to go do that. I'm perfectly happy throwing artificials. Yes, I probably won't catch as many fish, but they'll be quality. That's one nice thing about an artificial. Something whacks it. It's usually big. It's usually not some little baby fish. Then there's the soft plastics versus the hard. I'm a soft plastic person. But mostly for the way that I fish. Not that it's any better than the hard baits. Hard baits work too. I've used them extensively, actually. But soft plastic for the type of fishing that I do is the way to go. Let me explain. Soft for what? Soft for working the bushes. Soft for casting up under bushes. I don't need to be throwing something with a treble hook or a big chunk of metal or something up in there or a lip bait in that kind of environment. It's just going to get hung up. I'm going to be constantly going in there and removing it. Soft plastics allow for error. You can skip them. You can bury a hook in the plastic. You can put the tip of the hook in so they become weedless and hopefully branchless. And I love fishing with them. I do. Over the years, I've tried all kinds of colors, shapes, sizes. There are literally thousands of choices in the world of soft plastic. And I'm not going to go into that here. Most of you know what I use if you've listened to the podcast. And you know what color I like to use. Yes, pink. And white. But, for the type of fishing that I do, standing on the bow of the boat by myself, working the trolling motor down an edge, I am pretty much throwing soft plastics. Now, hard baits. Okay, so I have recently branched into that, basically doing inshore and nearshore trolling. I have bought lipped baits, primarily MirrOlures, Yo-Zuris, Rapalas, and I'm starting to buy the lip baits that do different depths. I was getting ready to really get into that like 3 weeks ago when all hell broke loose with the wind, so I haven't been able to go out. But essentially, these baits are designed to go a certain depth and wiggle a certain way in water when trolled behind the boat or when reeled in, either way. And with these new long cast rods, you can throw an artificial a long, long way. The weight of the lure itself carries it, I don't know, 70 feet, 70, 80 feet if you do get a good cast on. It's crazy how far you can throw the thing. But the trolling is what I'm most interested in. That's what I'd use a hard bait for. Not so much in the back. I'm not wild about throwing treble hooks. A lot of my hard baits, I take the trebles off and put J hooks on them or replace the hook just to make it easier to release the fish. But all in all, to me, the hard bait is a lip bait and something that's designed to dive. What I'm after is something that goes down 8 to 10 feet. And if you get into the Rapala line, Rapala actually labels their diving lures with, usually it'll have like a dash 10, dash 15, 20, 30, 35, 40. That's telling you how deep it'll go at about 5 to 8 miles an hour behind a boat. So you have to read the chart carefully to adjust your speed for where you want it to be. And you don't want to hang them up in the bottom, obviously. So in our area, that's really bad because there's all kinds of rocky outcroppings and things like that you can run into on the hard bottom. Hard shiny. I wrote this in my notes to mention it. I really like throwing spoons. I used to hate throwing spoons. I was anti-spoon until I spent several trips with my brother on his boat. And, it turns out he's like the king of throwing the gold spoon. And I watched him. Like I tell people, you watch somebody that's good at what they do, and then you do the same thing, and that's what I did. I just watched him fish it, slow as you go, just wobbling it across the bottom through the grass. No special brand, I never let, the old Johnson spoon was the one that everybody used, the gold Johnson Sprite. I still have those. There are many new ones out there on the market now. But I encourage you to try it. It's just, you cannot do what you do with other lures. You have got to learn to go really, really slow. And that was my problem. I just was not slowing it. Also slow and drop. Wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. You're just barely turning the handle, then stop and let it float down to the bottom and then start it right back up again. That usually will elicit a strike, especially from redfish. So hard, shiny, that's what I call those. And then there's the imitation artificials. Now, this has become a huge thing with several different big manufacturers out there. And what I'm talking about is the artificial lures that look like a creature, whether it's a shrimp, a crab, or a fish. They look dead on. They have the same colorations. If they're plastic, they wiggle the same way. Go for it. The problem I have in the Keys with them is big fish with teeth like them very, very much, and they ain't cheap. And if you put wire on, the big fish seem to be a tiny bit leery. They go, what in the heck is that in front of that bait? And they don't hit it like they should. Well, if it's a cuda, they do, but everything else doesn't. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. They work really, really well. But down here we have sharks, barracuda, almost all the big snappers. Cabera will just snap that sucker right off. You won't even stand a chance. So it's a losing proposition with some fish. So you'll be going after something that's not going to cut it off and will attack it. And then, of course, along comes the 3 to 4 foot barracuda, and it's gone in a flash. And, your $19, $20 just went right down the drain. So got to keep that in mind. I mean, cost on artificials ain't cheap. Let's put it that way. So there you go. I just want to do a fishing rundown. I want to do some fishy talk because there hadn't been a lot to talk about. I hope to goodness after the storm goes by this week. Today, like I said, is Monday. Tuesday's election day. Hope everybody survives that one, or the day after, whichever it may be. Down here, we'll probably be dealing rain and stormy stuff through Thursday. And I'm hoping by the weekend, I might actually get to put the boat in water. So you all pray with me, okay? I would really appreciate it. Now it's time for some useless information. No, I'm not going to leave it off. Don't send me emails and text. People love this segment. What is it about useless information? Only this time I decided to do everything about fishing. So here we go.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
The fastest fish in the ocean is the sailfish. The most popular fishing knot is the improved clinch knot. Been around forever. Been around so long it's been improved. The Greenland shark has the longest known lifespan of any vertebra. So far, up to 400 years. Can you imagine being alive 400 years? Wow. The largest fly fishing tournament in the world is the Jackson Hole One Fly. Basically, you use one fly for the entire tournament and try not to lose it. They used to do that down here in the Keys, as a matter of fact. I looked it up to see if I could find information about it and couldn't. And there you go. Until next week. And before I go, here are some final words. I'm beginning to feel somewhat blessed about the winds of the super high pressure system that's been sitting in the Atlantic Ocean for about the three to four of the last weeks. So feeling really blessed, actually. With the impending potential tropical blow, it's nice that it's sitting there and helping to move the storm to the west, away from the Keys. I'm not saying we're in the clear, but it looks better than it did several days ago. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to do some more novel reading, watching fishing shows on YouTube, and watching the insanity of the election returns. Well, maybe not that much. That may cause excessive adult drinking. Hang in there, y'all. The political TV ads are almost over. I'll talk to you later. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Catchy Outdoors. The website is catchyoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and news about books and my music. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.